I'm in love with the boy of the FFA. He has the cutest smile and sparkling eyes, and he lives on a farm in the USA, where everything he raises wins a prize. He's handsome, young, and tall with a power.
His name is one of the first that Louisiana FFA members learn as a freshman. We've seen his famous photo on the cover of the National Future Farmer magazine, and he's always a question for Ag 1 tests in Louisiana FFA Quiz Bowl competitions. But what is his real story? What is the truth behind the man, the myth, and the legend? Today we're going to dig deeper and learn more about Louisiana's only National FFA president, Mr. Jimmy Dillon. So listen up and learn.
Well, my background is I was born and reared in South Arkansas, about 2 miles above the line from Louisiana. And I had a brother that was 7 years older than I was that was staying with grandparents in Louisiana, right below the line, and he was going to the Bonita High School at Bonita, Louisiana, and they had a VOAG chapter there, FFA chapter there, and he took vocational agriculture. And I remember very well when I fell in love with the FFA was when I saw his jacket. And I saw that jacket, I think it was in about the first or second grade, and I thought that's the most beautiful picture in the world. Gosh, would I love to have one of those. Well, as it turned out, I eventually did. When I was in the 8th grade, my family, we moved to our little small farm out from Jones, Louisiana, which is right above the Louisiana line in the Mississippi Delta. And we had a small farm. We had 80 acres of land, and 40 of it was in cultivation. And we raised cotton and corn, and that was our main crops at that time. And I moved from Wilmot, Arkansas to Louisiana and entered high school at Bonita. And VOAG was a required subject for every boy that was in the school. And so that's when I entered VOAG, was in 1946, was a particular year. And I came through the FFA like all the other students who were enrolled in vocational agriculture. The main thing it meant to me was we not only learned about agriculture, but so many at that time, we were roughly, it was a rural country. We had many small farms, and we had a family that lived on probably every 40 acres, and at that time, many people plowed with mules, raised cotton with mules. We had a tractor at that time. This was after World War II when it was difficult to get machinery because the war had just ended, and most of the manufacturers had been manufacturing tools and ammunition and what it took to win the war. And they had to retool and go back into what they had been doing before World War II. And that's when all your agricultural equipment dealers began to figure how could they replace the mules. And they come up with one-row tractors. And this is what actually replaced the mules in the southern part of the United States, were so many small farms. Other parts of the country were involved in other kind of agricultural enterprises and were not involved in that small operation. And the FFA, every student in America could profit from it because it not only prepared you to go into agriculture if you wanted to, but it prepares you to be a good citizen and go into any occupation, because the training that you receive in the FFA is extremely valuable in any field you want to go into, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. I know many of the students used to say, "Why am I here? I'm forced to take vocational agriculture when I have no plans to go back on the farm and work and earn a living," because there is not enough land available at that time. And the future, the agriculture does not hold a future for me. As a result, many of the students that I was involved in school with at that time went into other occupations instead of agriculture. Maybe 1 in 100 went into agriculture directly, farming. Many of them went into other forms of agriculture, like I did, working in the agriculture field, which employs many people today. But very few people are actually involved in production of agriculture. Many of the students who were in school with me went into medicine, many of them went into law, many of them went into engineering, and every profession, and they excelled in every one of those professions because it prepared them for the jobs of the future. And this is the reason I had thought from the very beginning that the training that you receive in vocational agriculture and the FFA is extremely valuable wherever you want to go. And students who don't take it seriously are missing a real opportunity.
That's so
I want the FFA in the future to get involved and become very informed of what's going on in this country and what makes it tick. So many of the young people today have no idea of really what works in this country and how we have come about being a leader in the world. And I am fearful that if we don't have young people to realize what America and the United States means, we'll lose the very opportunity that we have had through the years. And I hope that someday we'll have a president of the United States that will have been trained in the FFA, because it prepares you for whatever field you want to go into. And I would like to think that VOAG students in the FFA will see to it that all the students who come through have a better understanding of the way this nation works. Specifically, I remember very well, and I'll tell this story. A dear friend of mine who was from Lawtell, Louisiana, went into medicine and excelled in medicine and became president of the Louisiana Medical Society. And he was relating to me of his parliamentary procedure in public speaking, how well prepared he was for conducting business with the medical society. And they couldn't understand why he knew so much about conducting a meeting and being very efficient in doing it. And his VOAG training and FFA experience is what made it possible. Well, public speaking is very, very beneficial. Parliamentary procedure was extremely beneficial. And just learning to relate to other people and understanding that people have different views. One of the biggest problems this day I am told by employers, is having students who can't get along with other employees. And the networking that takes place in the FFA prepares one to relate to other people and realize the importance of the different views that people have and respecting those views for what they have. That's one of the very benefits that I have received as far as FFA concerned, and the journey that I've taken. I had the opportunity right after I got out of college to work in advertising, calling on major advertising agencies in the ag centers of the Midwest. I called on International Harvester Corporation. I called on John Deere. I called on Massey Ferguson, Alice Chalmers, Ford, now New Holland, in offering them advertising in our National Future Farmer magazine. That was my first job, was working with the magazine. We were domiciled in Alexandria, Virginia at that time. And explaining to them the benefits of them advertising, and the benefits of advertising in the magazine was the influence that the FFA members had on the purchasing of agricultural equipment on the farm at that time. That gave me a very valuable background of knowing what goes on in the advertising world. Not only the media of television and radio and the newspapers and magazines, but how it influences the population. And my second job was working for the Chamber of Commerce in Bastrop, Louisiana, and where we worked with agriculture and industry. We had the North Louisiana Cotton Festival and Fair, and I managed that for 5 years. At the same time, I was a manager at the Chamber of Commerce. And we had the livestock show there that prepared them to move on all to the state show. And that was extremely valuable in helping the rural America and urban America understand each other and come together. I have never left the world of agriculture. That's exactly right. Been involved since the day I entered. I think it's extremely important that they get involved in it. I don't know of any activity that they could participate in high school that will be more valuable to them, whether it's the girls or the boys. It's extremely valuable to them, and it will prepare them for any field they want to go into. And I would hope that in the VOAG classes, they are enlarging their curriculum to the point that they take in many of the things that make this country tick, so that the young people will be prepared to be not only successful in the field, but very good citizens. We're in great need of leadership in every area of this country, and leadership that is well-founded and with a good foundation of understanding what's important. One of the big problems existing today is so many people are so busy with their activities, their own activities, they don't have time to participate in their church activities, in the civic activities, and that's what is different from us and other parts of the world. I had an opportunity many years ago to spend some time actually serving as a guide for an employee of the U.S. State Department. This employee was employed in Germany, and they brought him over to help him understand better the citizens in this country. And I took him around to many civic clubs and service organizations to give him a feel for what's involved in the United States. And he told me things are very different here. This has been many years ago. He said, we don't have the volunteers in Europe in activities that you have in this country. So that's a big difference. But we are, and this is I'm fearful of, because people are getting so involved in their own activities, they don't have time to volunteer in the service organization and civic activities in the churches and the community. And as a result, they're leaving it up to somebody else, and the somebody else's are not taking care of it that will keep this country together. It's hard for me to specify on one of them and be specific. That's a very difficult question for me, because my career mainly has been involved with volunteers. My last job that I spent 30 years on was managing a Farm and Power Equipment Dealers Association. The John Deere dealers, the Case dealers, the New Holland dealers that are located in most of rural America. My job was to help them manage their dealerships and help educate their employees and help get legislation passed in the legislature of Louisiana, Mississippi, and in Washington. And I lobbied in both the three places of Jackson, Mississippi, the state capital, and in Louisiana capital. My office for 30 years was right across the street from the state capitol in Baton Rouge. And I spent a great deal of time in the legislature when it was in session, getting acquainted with all the legislators and the governor and when laws were being made that affects not only our dealers but their customers, the farmers. And as a result of it, this was extremely valuable to me and a very enjoyable experience of helping the dealers run their dealerships successfully and profitably. The one experience I had was being grateful and thankful for all the FFA members in Louisiana and their VOAG advisors giving me the opportunity to serve as a state officer and as a national officer. Had it not been for them, I would not have had that opportunity. And that was to me the one thing that stood out for me has been the most beneficial for me and the one that I'm most grateful for. My advice to them and counsel to them is to become very knowledgeable about everything going on in this country. Because things change drastically and you got to keep up with the changes that are going on. And you got to be knowledgeable and you got to have a very good understanding and background of what's going on, and particularly running for a national office, because there's so much involved. And my counsel to the students who start out is realize the importance of being involved and learning as much as you can about government, about economics, about the laws that we have that run this country, about the changes that need to be made, and the changes in society, and we have to evolve. And if you don't have an understanding of it, how can you represent the FFA into the world if you don't have a good understanding of what it's all about? That would be my counsel. And I say that for the FFA officers who are running for not only the local chapter, and the local government, understanding the parish system, the police jury system, how the cities work, the councils in the different municipalities, the mayors, the governor, the Commissioner of Agriculture, and not only the Commissioner of Agriculture, but all the other forms of government, because all of them affect our lives. And the FFA members are going to be in all occupations, and they need to be the best informed in a room of young people. And we need leadership who is informed. And believe me, if you took a room of students today and you brought up a subject in there and you needed to pick out a leader of the group to lead the group and represent the group, the person who stands out that has the knowledge and can express it, and fortunately through public speaking and the FFA training, one gets to express himself and learn to express himself very, very well. But if you don't have the knowledge behind it, and if it's not solid, then pretty soon they realize, well, they don't know what they're talking about. And that's the quickest way to lose respect. And I've seen many, many people that appear before the legislature and try to convince the legislators to vote for specific items on their agenda. And they testify there. And all I have to do is for the legislator to ask them 1 or 2 questions, and real quickly you can see whether the person knows what they're talking about or don't. And if they know what they're talking about and explain it very, very well, and that's what they go there for, is to inform the legislature of why they should vote for this item or vote for it or against it. And they need to be convinced, and that's the reason you go and testify for it. This is true whether it's in the church, whether it's in the civic club, whether it's before local government authority or wherever it is. And to me, this is where the FFA should shine and has a great opportunity. And it's not easy. You can't spend your time twiddling your thumbs and being on social networks talking about how great thou art and letting the world know that you're dating Joe today, or Joe dating Susie today, and I'm thrilled today about I got a date to go tomorrow night. Sure, that's fun and that's very important, but that won't convince people that you know what's going on that's important. My feeling would be the VOAG advisor and the ag teacher has a tremendous responsibility, and they have a tremendous opportunity. And many students, and I've often said the ag teacher, and I've seen this in many places where the ag teacher was the most respected person in the school. People go to him or her and seek counsel. And I speak for the same thing for them. They've got to know what's going on in their community, and they be a leader in their community to the point that when people want advice and counsel and knowledge, they go to that ag teacher and to seek it, and they get it. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to know, they'll know everything, but they have an opportunity to go in the community and find the people who are knowledgeable on every subject. And these citizens in the community are not, they couldn't be more honored than for a VOAG teacher to come in and say, would you come and speak to my students and explain to them about your business and the problems you encounter in your business? For instance, right now we have, I recently put my tractor in the shop to get it repaired. And the shop foreman told me, well, I'll have it maybe 2 weeks from now. Well, I went back in 2 weeks and I'm sorry, I just didn't get to it. He related to me his problem. He said, I can't get mechanics in my shop. He says, they're unavailable. Wonderful job paying opportunities and wonderful occupation to be in, but nobody wants to go into it. And here's where instructors, the VOAG advisor can go in the community and have all the different occupations, the attorneys to come in and speak what's involved in practicing law, have somebody from the medical community to come in and speak to them and tell them what's involved in getting in the medical field, in the engineering field, in the scientific fields of all kinds, and really broaden out not only agriculture, but all the different fields that students can go into and how they can go about training to go into those fields to best prepare them to get an opportunity. And there's no doubt in my mind that the VOAG students who have had that background in training will succeed when they get there, and they'll be a leader in wherever they go, whether it's in a shop repairing equipment, whether it's jet airplanes, and how great a need we have for mechanics who can work on planes today and keep the planes in the air. And also the automobiles that are on the roads. And the fields are wide open for employment, and it really bothers me when I see so many young people say, well, I can't get a job. Well, the problem is they don't know how to prepare for the jobs that are available out there. And here's where the VOAG teacher and advisors can advise them and help them when they go into VOAG in the 8th grade and 9th grade, all the way through, guide them and say, well, I think I'd like to do this. I think I'd like to do that. Doesn't sound good to me. And in the summertime, go and intern with these people. And it's better to go and learn if you're not making a nickel. If you go in there and say, well, just let me come work for free. I want to learn what's involved in this occupation, see if I want to go into it. Tremendous opportunities for bringing the communities into the school and using them as resources in the classroom. And I understand what that's all about because I trained as a VOAG instructor. I've been in the classroom and I understand what it is to be an instructor. And I can assure you, I enjoyed every minute of it, but it was the hardest work I ever did in my life because I enjoyed every minute of it. And I was at the end of the day, not only physically, but mentally exhausted. It breaks my heart when I see these young people that are marching. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what's involved. Somebody in my opinion, with the wrong objective are influencing them, and they're using them as a front for them. And this is the thing, young people have to be real careful who their advisors are. Is this person for real? Or what is their objective? Are they going to use me for their own benefit and take me down the primrose path wrongly? And as young people, and I remember very well, my sister was very concerned about me and some of the people that I would come in contact with. And she says, you got to be extremely careful, Jimmy. Said, people will use you. And I said, you don't have to worry. The background I've had, I listen, I got big ears, and I try to make my own mind up, and I ask other people if I have questions about somebody, I ask other people, what do you think about so-and-so? What do you think about them? Are they sound? Is it judgment? What's their ulterior motive? These are things that keeps you from being burnt. And it's awful easy to get burnt. Awful easy.